Good morning.
Happy Monday.
Good morning. Guys, you have a nice t-shirt. Show it.
How much does this sponsorship cost?
Yeah, the sponsorship
Only
is,
one t-shirt, or 2 t-shirts only. So
right.
I think it was $6, so it was pretty cheap to get us on screen.
Noiseware's got to step up the game there.
Sending it to the US was more expensive than the t-shirt, but it's okay.
And so yeah, that shipping is gonna be crazy.
Ross, are you going to the Star show in the UK next month?
If I go there?
Yeah.
No, I was not planning to. Well, there's still a lot of restrictions. If you go, I think, to the UK, I think still you have some limitations and quarantine and everything afterwards. So, if I'm correct.
As Americans, it's if you're doubly vaxxed, then you're good. No,
I have to recheck it, but I was not planning to. But by the way, if some viewers, listeners like the t-shirt like this, just reach out to me and I'll send them a t-shirt as well. You see, that's free. Nice, isn't it?
All supplies last.
If we say in Holland, op is op, yes. So
that's awesome. Well, fun, good weekend for me. I got to unplug a little bit. I turned off my phone for about a little over 30-something hours. So that was a good weekend to get away and not have to
You're
be
an entrepreneur. You switch off your phone and in your case with all your fans is difficult, right? You just have to switch because
I didn't have you guys. I didn't have you guys texting me every 5 seconds, and then
Well, how do you know? We tried, but you weren't answering.
No, I turned it on and it was good. Life was great. There's a couple fires to put out, but nothing from you guys, thank God. So it was a good weekend overall, and I'm excited to be back this beautiful Monday. You guys have anything for the good of the order before we jump into what's with the noise?
I just want to say that I like your t-shirts, or I mentioned this already. Probably I'm going to mention a few more times that for the people who are just listening, they're wearing a bedroom t-shirt. So
yeah, and then also don't forget breezeway.io/GMH.
They still sponsoring? It's still on? Because I know that there's a lot of companies approach us for being a sponsor, but they still sponsoring?
They're really good friends, so we're gonna give them shout outs.
Okay.
Just like we're giving Bidroom a couple shout outs here,
Cool.
Perfect. So let's jump into what's with the noise, and then we'll get into the main topic of the day.
I should probably get a video of my actual grandmother eating a donut every day. But this week we are in recovery mode. And just this morning, Mattis, the CEO of Muse, has posted how much recovery has happened really in the past month, 13% gain, which is huge. It is travel season, especially in Europe. July, August, when everyone takes the time off. But it's great to see that hotels around the world, everywhere except for Australia, New Zealand, who unfortunately are back in lockdowns. So guys in Australia and New Zealand, feel free to move somewhere else and be a little more open. But until then, the rest of the world is on a great track. And it's so good to see hotels really gaining some speed and hopefully I wouldn't be surprised if the travel season in Europe especially extends well into the fall now that Americans are allowed in places like the UK for the first time in a year and a half. So thanks, Mattis, for sharing that with us. And that is what's noisy out there.
What's noisy? I like it. I also like that if you're in Australia or New Zealand, you should just
move.
We saw the great exodus from California to Texas.
I love this, how you're solving problems there. Just move. just go move.
If the government's not letting you do your thing, then find a new government, I guess.
Amen. Amen. I like that. I like that idea. That was just a good segue.
I told you before, Michael. It's Matthijs. It's Dutch.
Matthijs?
Matthijs, yeah.
Yeah, my Dutch is pretty bad, and there's no vowels in that name, so it's tough.
No worries.
Well, we love Muse here on the show. I loved getting to sit down with Richard Valter, who's one of the founders as well. So good group over there. They got some good data, and I like the overall perspective of the outlook that they have on software and travel. It's pretty cool. So good to see that the data is showing good recovery. Another good sign I think that we could say is showing good recovery is the amount of investments that have happened in the industry this last week. So I think we'll pop up, if I can pull up the right one. We got Realpha. I think if I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
Closes $6 million. And we got our good friends at Front Desk. They raised $7 million.
What's up, Jesse?
Jesse DePinto. Yeah. So pretty cool.
Yeah,
Sign of
it's
recovery.
Good to see a pretty solid round coming out of COVID for an urban operator. But I think they've picked their markets well, and a lot of the smaller markets, the non-New York, LA, Miami ones, are the ones that people are visiting. So good to see. Revenues must be great to be able to raise a pretty solid round like that. So good job, Team Front Desk. Matthias, apologies for the mispronunciation of...
You're saying it again incorrect, Matthias.
Matthias. All right, Matthias. I'll get it eventually, but I'll have Michael Ross practice that with me for a while before we're live again. So yeah, the investments continue to roll in, and I mean, I know a dozen more companies that are deep into funding discussions right now. So I'd suspect the rest of the year might be a little bit of fundraising, a little bit of acquisitions. We also saw, and forgot to add this to you, Will, but Kasai, a Mexico City-based operator, acquired a company in Brazil. So the acquisition prediction has continued. That was fast.
Yeah. I already had him up. I saw it this morning as I was doing my little shop on the internet, and boom, there it is. Yeah, here we are.
Love that.
Yes. So yeah, the continued trend of acquisitions and venture capital and
still, if you're looking at most of the investments we addressed in the last weeks, months, it's actually still most of them are still in the vacation rental space, right? You see many still out there. So I think we mentioned quite a lot of them. So in the hotel space, you see a bit less. In technology, it's also a bit, I think, not many so far. You see a lot of initiatives or technology in vacation rental specifically. So
yeah, why is that? Why is hotels lagging behind? I would think with some of the depressed occupancy rates that there'd be some fire sales or some opportunities to merge or be acquired.
Well, I think that what I said, I think it was a week ago, what my predictions were that there will be some moves or some change or merging. I think I saw an article a few days ago. Was it Redison? Correct me if I'm wrong. They're looking at I think it was Redison. They're looking at the alternatives or also maybe some takeovers. I think I'll check it. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I think it's going to happen anyway that you see some mergers of hotel chains. Maybe get some smaller ones on board, maybe the ones which are at 50, 60 hotels. Just it would be great to have a different kind of brand, including our collection, and maybe indeed some vacation or some apart hotels kind of collection. But again, most of the investments last year was in the short-term rental space. So
yeah. Well, I was going to say, we know.
I think it's connected to growth, right? I think if you go back, I think it's all, if you see growth, vacation rental, I think that almost all of them, they had they didn't do so bad. They show some growth, and that's also the key and the KPI for getting investment, right? So if you can show some growth, it's much easier to raise money. All the other areas, which is technology, for the hotels, the hotels are not investing a lot in technology, unfortunately. Hotels were not doing so well. If you're starting a new hotel collection, a brand, OTA, whatever, it's all different. So I'm curious what's going to happen. I think now also that the hotel sector is seeing a growth now. Of course, still, I think 1 2 months ago was really limited, but here in Europe, you see it's really now start to grow. Well, you saw the article of Matthijs. That's how he's saying his name.
Matthijs.
Okay,
what's up, Matthijs?
That actually, and you see the same in here. If we check in first space, even in here, Netherlands, whatever, you see that the occupancy goes really up, or hotels are fully booked. So it's a good sign.
So in your hotel expertise, Ross, is is the rebound of hotels gonna eat heavily back into short-term rentals like it was pre-pandemic, or do you think short-term rentals have kind of made their move and are going to be a little bit more well adopted from here on out?
I think two things. There's for sure it's a trend, right? For sure now people want to have their own space, cook by themselves, and in the end people want to go back to some more luxury, so they're going back to the hotels. I think it will be more, really depends on the location. What do you need if you go to a specific place? If you go, for example, a bit longer somewhere, you don't want to eat every day in the restaurant of the hotel. If you go to a city, it's already different, right? So I think it's really connected to the location. Sometimes you just want to have a hotel for the facilities. So I think the hotels, which is like the resorts, including spas, they will do always
100% agree. Yeah.
And I think if you're looking at the especially city destinations, you see a friend of mine has a few apart hotels in here. He's now he sees some local tourism, but it's tough. But it will come back. But I think again, if you have facilities more to offer than just a stay, I think you're good. If you're just with all respect, just a bed, and you have to compete against places which looks better, which indeed are more innovative. And maybe still before in the past was still this hurdle, right? There was always this experience like picking up a key. I always liked an hotel because you're arriving, you get your key, you can go to your room. Still, a lot of people think, okay, I need an apartment, I have to pick up a key somewhere, then I have to find the apartment. There's a block, there's 50 different apartments. A few of them are only for short-term rental because it's a normal block where people living. Can I access somewhere? This was always a bit this friction part, right? I think nowadays things are so much also because of technology make it easier. You have that this key can be self check-in or with a code, or we have many great solutions out there. Security-wise, it's already much better improved. There's amazing solutions like noise aware and everything. So the whole segment of apartments is improved. I think last years and much more professional than before. So I think people who stay once in an apartment is okay, good to come back. I like this, like it like this. I'm convinced.
The metric that we were tracking for a while, and it was fairly stagnant. It went from like 30 to 35% of people who travel that have tried a short-term rental. And that number from 2016 to 2019 was pretty much flat between 33, 35%. In 2020, that number jumped to between 40 and 50%. So it already, 10% more of the global travelers were now trying out another accommodation type. Yeah. And I think I've certainly seen Glenn Fogel say this, but as soon as people try short-term rentals, they're not scared of them anymore because they now know they don't have to go pick up a key. They can go and just walk straight to their room, and they don't, they don't have to deal with the front desk, and they have a fridge, and they can put the crib in the other room, and it's a totally different experience.
For the first time, me and Glenn Fogel agree on something. Wow. Come on, this is epic.
Well, I was gonna say also, like, during this time period, though, I think the overall like host operator has evolved a lot more. I think that's why a lot of people were so scared to try short-term rentals, was because a lot of them, I think there was a big boom in 2018, 19 of like just overall Airbnb hosts, and then 2020 kind of the same thing happened again. But I think people are getting more educated on how to professionally operate, how to, keep that hotel standard of cleanliness, but also, how do we innovate using technology, remote locks and noise aware devices and insurance and guest screening and all this other stuff that kind of helps, I think, balance out that lack of, I don't know, like I just think about when my parents first got it and they thought, they could leave, don't touch this because this happens. Like I get like there's like little notes, but they like just had this, it was just all over the place, and you could be like, all right, this isn't like I feel like I'm, it just didn't feel right. And then
friendly.
Guest friendly, and then they changed it to a guest friendly model where it was like you have access to this, do this. Here's like extra coffee from the local coffee roaster, and they kind of made a destination out of it.
3 remotes on the TV to like press this one first, and then this
exactly.
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, in the past, people had this the thought, right? That it's okay, people renting out their space for a few nights per month because they're out. But now, of course, people have spaces just professional to rent it out full time, right? So 100%. It's completely changed. And I think if you're looking at the beginning of the Airbnb, that was the initial deal, right? You just have your room available, your apartment available for some nights. So why not make some money on it?
Yeah.
This is completely changed now to make it professional and has it as a living.
But it's coming full circle with brands like Orion House that are live here and drop your keys off and let us rent it out. You know, it's not a full-time rental property. But it does help professionalize those single hosts, which is the key. And that's the key to getting the traveler to stay. If you have a bad experience the first time you do something, you usually don't do it again. But if you have a good experience first and then a bad experience, then you often will try it again, right? Because you've at least seen the good side of it. So it's I know Airbnb has got a big push on that as well. This resident home sharing model. I think that's
the rentalpreneurs.
It's almost more. It's almost less of a wave of short-term rentals and more of a wave of traditional long-term rentals. But
I can share you a stat from Orion House personally is that 70% of Americans spend over 50% of their income on rent alone. So that right there shows you that there's a big drop or imbalance, I guess, of expenses going out the door with accommodation that could be an apartment, a single family home, whatever, and why not focus on ways to? That's kind of like.
Is it that high?
It's that high. Yeah, it's crazy. Jeez. It's crazy. Yeah, I'll show you all the details later. But it was, it's a crazy thing to think about that if over 50% of your income is being spent on rent or some kind of living accommodation for the year, why not offset that? Why not find ways to professionalize and streamline a way that you could make some of that money back?
Yeah, and I think that's where this divide of hotels and short-term rentals really kind of separates. Like if you want to be pampered and you want a restaurant downstairs and you want, someone to clean your room every night, like that's a vacation, and a hotel, is a good option if it's you and your wife, right?
Yeah.
But if you've got a business trip in a city center for a week and you like to have more than just a bed and a TV, you need some space, you got to have some calls, you need to make your own coffee in the morning. And it's like, there's this divide. I think that's the hotels used to own the business travelers, but I think travel for business is going to not just be 1 or 2 nights anymore. When people go, they're staying longer. And in these city centers, you can get some of these rentals for pretty cheap, pretty comparable rates to hotels, branded hotels at least, and it's a good experience. So maybe it's flipped a little bit. People used to stay in short-term rentals on holiday,
vacation,
and use hotels for business. But it seems that it's logical that it changes the opposite directions.
Well, I think it's especially also connected to the audience, right? If I want to go with my family, we've got 2 kids, then a hotel room is a disaster. It's just too small. Then to get 2 rooms sleeping separately, no way. Family rooms, not many hotels has family rooms nowadays. So you're just going to move to an apartment, right? When you say, okay, we just have their space, we can have a common space, and we have the bedrooms, and you can cook something if you would like to, but more also the convenience of rooms, right? So I think if you're a couple, business traveler, easy, sometimes still the hotel. If you go with your friends, already different because you like to be in the same space but have different rooms. And the same with families, right? So I think, especially also, and I'm checking also for myself, you would go to more, if you're looking for vacation rental. I think especially the luxury segment, and don't have to be like top. But if you say I want to have a good, clean property, good facilities, just a luxury space, I think there's a lot of potential and possibilities there. Still, if you look on an Airbnb, even though I just have to confess I never booked an Airbnb in my whole life so far, by the way. But yes, I stayed in short-term rentals, but I never booked there. But just I always book directly, you know me. or a broken bedroom. It's fine.
Always
We
directly
also-
or on my
we also have short-term rentals, so we got amazing short-term rentals as well. So please have a look. But yeah, you're looking for a good I think especially in if you look in the Airbnb, and sometimes I'm looking for some selection and try to find the host and reach out to them directly. I'm sorry, guys, of Airbnb. But you see that there's a lot of shit as well, right? You just see so many properties. So you just, okay, maybe it's a different target audience, but there's a lot of stuff out there which is almost never booked because it's just one big mess. So I think still a differentiator between more quality, and we talked about in the past, maybe more, you will see some brand kind of apartments, more like with some standards. There's no classification, unfortunately, in the, I still believe there could be some classification wise. Okay, could be size, could be, I think internet could be for one of the requirements, because I think it's crucial for the majority of the people. So they could have some requirements into go more classification. I think this could be really something what could work in the apartment industry.
Yeah.
Because this, I think still, when people knows, okay, this has a X numbers of keys, and they had some in the past, right? But it's okay, this number has X classification, so I know it's good. I think even more people will be convinced to stay in a short-term rental. Now it's still, and yes, you can read some reviews on the Airbnb, but still, you're just always a bit skeptical if it's real. You don't know. So
yeah, and the hotel business trip, to circle back there, like oftentimes you're traveling with someone else from your company. Like sometimes you do it totally solo, but oftentimes there's one more person coming along. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you're wining and dining, and maybe you're having, a cocktail, a pre-drink in your room, or a beer or something, and then heading out to dinner.
That's
but
you.
you can't do that in a hotel, right? It's really weird to say, hey, why don't you come up to my hotel room and have a beer? But it's totally acceptable to say, yeah, come up to my flat. We've got, some beers in the fridge, and you're in a living room, right? It's a casual setting. And so just looking at conferences, it's just no one does anything in rooms. You need a private space for a chat or a call. It's not the hotel room. It's a living room in an apartment, or you're seeking out some hidden nook in a hotel to talk about, whatever secret plans you have to take over the world.
Come on, I can see real thinking. I'm invite them always to my room. What I'm doing wrong?
No, I don't know. Nothing goes in my head. No.
We've all been in that situation, right? It's like, we should go up to the hotel. No, we shouldn't. There's no room, and my stuff's everywhere.
Well, yeah. Depending on the type of traveler, I know people that I'm the person, I keep everything in my suitcase unless it's like, hey, this is what I wore today. This is going in the laundry bag. This is what I'm wearing tomorrow type deal. That's pretty much all that comes out in my toiletries. But I've seen other people that, they're unpacking. I'm like, you're like, whoa. So you never know. It's just because it brings in that, like you said, Golden, there's that barrier, I think, between the living space and the sleeping space, and that helps create that casual environment.
Because it's a difference. A hotel is a sleeping room, right? So you're not going to invite somebody to your sleeping room. So it's going to be a different invitation. It's a bit strange. You just invite them to your bedroom, right? It's a bit different.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, and I think you were kind of talking about standards when it comes to the quality of the property. Not only that, but the quality of how everything is going to be operated. And one thing for us, as we've been setting up a couple properties throughout the Pacific Northwest here, is that no matter what, whether it's a listing or a property just north of Seattle, or if it's one in the mountains and it's a cabin with a ski destination, we keep it pretty consistent across the board. And we're realizing that travelers are actually booking, the booking patterns show that the consistent I think quality, the listing description, the pictures, the same everything that hotels kind of do and they do good at, that really does help with the overall, I think, recovery. And now, before I want to change subjects now, is that for the investment that we've been seeing into the industry, I never actually looked into Realpha as much until I saw this article. But to be curious to see the comparison of how many companies, whether they're hotels or vacation rentals or tech, received funding, and how many of them are in the multifamily space and how many are not in the multifamily. Because I think front desk is one of the few that are not in, or that are in the multifamily area for investment.
I mean, Sandra received a boatload of money.
I was gonna say Sandra's different, man. Like you gotta think about it. Sandra's complete. Like how much did they receive? Like a couple, like I want to say 100 mil or more.
Yeah, more than that. Yeah.
I don't remember. So
yeah, I think a lot of the investment's been on the technology side, less operators. Operators were crushing it and raising money left and right in 2019. But a lot have raised money since because of their markets or the need to or whatnot. But I think so the re-alpha institutional investment in properties for vacation rentals is a bit of a scary subject, I think, in certain markets, because you're now changing the regulation discussion at City Hall, where it says that's my second home, that's how I make a living, like that's, you know, I pay taxes here, I live here, yada yada. But if institutional investors come in, and let's say it's in San Diego where there's only 1,000 licenses available, and that institutional investor has 20% of it, it just totally changes the conversation at City Hall. So while I love the idea of institutional investment in short-term rentals, and I think it's coming and it's bound to happen, and obviously it started, it does raise or open cans of worms that I'm not sure we're really ready for. Like we're still fighting regulation battles without institutional investors being here. And then now if they start coming in droves, it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Well, there's a huge shortage on housing, especially here as well, but I think in the US as well. So by having institutional investors or VCs or whatever investing actually in properties directly for renting it out, there's a bigger shortage, right? So it means only, as you just said, Mr. Will Slickers, that the people spending more than half of their income on housing. And this wasn't the case. I just saw some articles. If you're looking at the same maybe scenario maybe 10 years ago, maybe it was 1/3 or maybe even 25%. Because the housing goes up because of the shortage and using for different purposes as well. So I think it's a risk. I hope there will be some regulations, because it is going to happen. It means the people especially just start as well, have more difficulties to find a more affordable place.
Well,
or even in the suburbs.
Or you sign up and lease up with Orion House. You know, go with that solution. There you go. Offset your rent, affordable housing, and you make a little bit.
They sponsoring, Will?
They're good friends. They're good friends.
Where's the t-shirts?
Well, we gotta get those next. We'll do bedroom, and then we'll do maybe some noise aware, and then off to Orion House we go.
I know you have noise aware stuff, Will. Ross, we got to get you some.
Oh yeah.
I'll meet you in London at the conference and drop you off a few.
See, this is I was looking at my wardrobe, and like I have a counter in my kitchen that's just covered in like bedroom gear, noise aware, Safely, all these other like company swag. I'm like, oh yeah, man, I should just get rid of my whole wardrobe and just rock industry brands and just become a billboard.
Pretty much all I wear. Yeah.
Yeah.
You saw the guy, by the way, I just seeing it now. I saw it on LinkedIn. I should send you the guy actually printing his vaccine passport on his t-shirt because he's still traveling. Instead of keep showing his vaccine, like his printed documents, he just printed on his full white t-shirt with with the QR code on it. It was amazing. I'll send you the photos.
Pretty cool. In the US, we don't have a QR code. That would be useful if you have to, especially in places you have to show an ID vaccine to get into a restaurant.
Yeah, I was gonna say it'd be interesting to see how many people actually accept it as a form of identification for it. But
with the QR code, it's a lot easier. But in the US, it's just.
I'll send it to you now, Will. Maybe you can still show it. It was actually fun. So it's awesome. A new solution, actually. What you could do if you start traveling again. So
I just do it without it. I don't need one of those to show, at least at the moment. But anyways, great episode this week.
It was about the investments and turned out about short-term rental. Oh, we just addressed a few different topics, but that's
Well, awesome. We'll see you guys again next week, and we'll see what maybe we can coordinate our outfits again.
What's the topic for next week, Will? What's a surprise?
Surprise for everybody.
More predictions coming true.
Amen. All right. Have a great week, everybody.